and we are able to get it. So this is a solution which will be added, and this is a question which I asked yesterday. You guys also can see the solution here, how exactly we are doing it. So here, this is the thing, this is the output which which I was asking you to guys. So after my name is, I need to add this name variable. We add a name variable here, and again we want to add last name as well, as same as first name and last name. So we added both, and we need to add some text in between where my roll number is, and then here we converted it to string again. So we are able to convert it to string, and again we are adding some other information here. So instead of uh, splitting these things into it, you can directly write like this. You don't need to create it as two strings. So here we are adding other variables as well, which is brand, section, and city. So in the end, we are getting this output. So as you are trying to add the entire print statement with comma separated and using plus operator as well, instead of we can directly do everything in one using commas or using plus operators directly. So doing my name is of adding it at a string, you can directly add using comma separation. So this is how we get the entire output. It's and we can do everything in comma separator itself while we are printing. So this is how the output will be. If you guys want to take a note of it, please take note of it. Or if you have any questions on this one, please add it on chat. Yeah, so that's good. I got what you're trying to do there. There's no objection on that one. That you are trying to add all the concept into one print statement. That's exactly what I wanted. I was just explaining we can do it in comma separated and using plus operators as well. So you did well. You did great. The same way we can use all plus operators directly instead of using commas. So this is one basic thing which you need to know when you are trying to print it, because you will be using print at multiple places. Every time you want to see what's the output, you need to use print. So make sure that you know or you are clear on print, how do you print it, all the information and things. So when you are doing comma separated, you don't need to convert a number as string. So when you have to mention str only when you are having integers. So you are trying to add an integer with a string. So if you are adding 60 and mechanical engineer, let's suppose, you cannot add it, right? So because it's a number, so you can add a number with number. So you can do 2 plus 2, but you cannot add with 2 because you cannot add these kind of things. So when you are trying to add an integer with string, it will create a problem. It will throw a syntax error. So for that, you need to convert this particular number to a string. So for converting an integer a number to a string, we use this format. So whatever that variable, so string of 2. So like this you can add even if there is a number, you are into a string basically the type of this. So we'll discuss in detail that how exactly we can deal with these kind of data types later on when we are discussing data types. So these is the reason why we are converting into strings. I hope you got it. If you want anything else, please let me know. If everything is fine, we'll just move forward on discussing much few little more things on variables itself. How do we access and do things? I hope there is no question till now. If you guys having any questions or difficulties running the project and things, please let me know. And please call your friends who didn't join the call. I think we have less number of people now who didn't join the call. I think we have 88 right now. Please ask your friends to join the call so that we can have all the people on there. Even they won't be missing anything. So this is what it is. And so parallelly, you guys can try it on your Python file which you have created. I'll be doing it from my Jupyter, so it is much convenient for me to print it. So I don't need to go below and run the command every time. So it's simply wasting my time. So instead, you guys can try on over there like that from your side. So it's basically same thing which you guys are doing there. So I'll get the output of it. So you guys can parallelly work on your Python files which you have created, and as soon as you type it, you can directly run it from here. So right now we have a variable of we have name and roll number of, let's suppose, 20. So we have name and roll number of Uday and 20 here. So we'll try to redefine or reassign the value to it. So right now the name is Uday. So if I'm trying to initially it's Uday. So before declaration, what will be? So I'm changing the name of basically changing the data of variable called name. So right now name I'll make it as Rakesh. So right now initially we gave name as Uday, and then we are trying to print it. Print name, and we are assigning some other data to the name itself. So we are basically redefining it, reassigning some value. So in the behind process, what will happen over here is it will go to that particular location. So where the information, all the variable information is storing, it's going to go to that particular location and it will remove the completely and it will put Rakesh over there. So when we are trying to print it, we will be getting output like this. Before declaration, so I'm basically rewriting the variable information. So then it would be Rakesh later on after changing it. So this is how we deal even or if you want to update any information after some point of time, you can directly update it, so that you will get the updated result over here. Is this clear? Okay, yeah, I think let me talk about the Python terminal as well. So normal Windows terminal is a command prompt where you do all kind of things. So Python terminal is completely different. So where you can do all Python related things. So instead of creating a Python file, so let's suppose I want to calculate what's 122 plus 144. For that, I want to do some Python program to do it. So instead of going here or creating a Python file and do it, instead we have a Python terminal where we can do 122 plus 144, which will give 266 directly. So you can also do all the things which you are trying to do here. We can print hello world. So every code which you are trying to do, which we are trying to do yesterday, add everything. So we assign name to that. So if you are typing name and press enter, it's gonna return that data what's inside the name variable. So we'll basically use this terminal to check smaller things. Even you can write a bigger codes also here, but it's not convenient. You cannot do all kind of things over here. So if you want to check smaller things or any packages or any validation and things like that, you can do small things over here on your terminal. When we are dealing with some little bigger programs, you can do it from Python file which you have created. So if you have any questions, let me know on the chat. So this how we declare variable, and we'll redeclare the variable again with some other data, and we'll see how exactly it's printing. So if I'm, let's suppose I'm adding a number to it instead of adding a name. If I'm giving Rakesh as 30, name as 30, I'm printing it. So here you can see before declaration is Uday. So after declaring, we have given Rakesh and we are getting Rakesh over here. So even after third declaration, I made it as 30. So it's gonna print 30. So every time you create or assign any same data to variable, you don't need to define what kind of variable it's supposed to be. On any other programming languages, you need to give int name as 30, and you need to define it like that. Whether it's supposed to be integer or string or float, you need to define the variable declaration. So on Python, you don't need to declare anything. So based on the data you pass to it, it will change the type of that particular variable itself. So you don't need to deal much of those things with declaration, variable declarations. So right now we added these things. So we have name and roll number. So if I am trying to check the type of that variable, so if I am trying to check there again his name. So if I'm trying to check the type of variable, so right now my variable is name. I'm checking the name variable with string. So here we have string. So str is basically data type called string. If you are trying to check type of roll number which we created above, then integer. So it's basically a number which we created. It will act as an integer. So that's how you can check the type of any variable. If you want to check what kind of information is there in a single variable, you can check in that way. for pip command package installation, we use normal Windows command from sir. Why is not separated on Python terminal? So Python terminal is basically something little like programming you do. You cannot install a package from your program code. So you cannot, you won't go to your program and write pip install, right? So it's your program which you are doing. Even Python terminal is something like that, something similar to program which you do. Instead of creating a new Python file or doing some small things, you can directly open this Python terminal and do it. So I use Python terminal for lots of situations where I want to check small things. Let's suppose if I have to do some validation, it would be much difficult for you guys to do understand it if I am trying to explain much more on why do we or when do we use Python terminal. So most of the times I won't. I'll create my Python file and do it. I'll create, open and check on Python terminal only at few situations where I have to check small things. Like so here you can see what is 122. So some bigger calculation if you are doing. So 1, 4, 5, 6 and something like this. I won't open calculator as a programmer. I'll open my Python terminal and then I add it. So I'll get the result. So for these kind of small things, or if I have to do any small validations, I'll do using Python terminal. You cannot install packages using Python terminal. So this is not a terminal which will help you to install packages. So you have to use your Windows command prompt to install anything. It's basically something, a software which was created by Python organization, which will help us to do small programming things on this one. I hope that's answer your question. And so this is how we declare variables, and this is how we check the type of those variables. I want you guys to do it parallelly on your system, on your Python files, as I'm doing it on Jupyter, just to get the response directly then and there. Here, if I have to type it here and then I go back here and do check the output. So it's little difficult or problematic for me. It's basically taking some time to do. So I prefer to teach my classes on Jupyter so that you can directly use this code itself. So you can copy paste it and you can, so here I created everything and I'll create the type of it. So your Jupyter will act little different. So here I'm not writing any print statements because it will directly print it as soon as I give it here. But on Python program you need to give prints. So please take care of it. You need to write it in a print statement. So roll number is so here you can see, I think we redefined. So here you can see the before declaration is Sudhir, so after first declaration is Rakesh, and second one is 3, which I created over here. So we redeclared again, and we have print type of that variable. So name is string str, and type is roll number type is integer. So where we create an integer over here, which is of number of 60. So that's how it would be. No, so it don't depend upon your Python version. It depends upon the ID which you are using. So right now, every data type which you gonna see, it's a class. So you are getting this at a class here. But when Python is little different, it won't directly show it as a class. So it's basically for people who understand Python a little. So those kind of people uses Jupyter, so that they know how basically things work. So here it won't show it as a class and something like how we are showing here. So it will show in a simpler manner that it's a string, it's a class, it's an integer, and things like that. So that's why you don't see those kind of things on Jupyter, but both are same. It's basically how we are showing it. So here it's showing it as a class of string and class of integer. Basically, every data type is a class, which is already declared. So it will show in a different manner over here on Jupyter. So don't worry about those things. If you have any questions, yeah, please add on like this so that we can clear on. So I'm just using Jupyter just for teaching purposes, so that it is easier for me to directly add it and print it. So please bear with that. So here every time I go here and running it, it's taking little time for me. I have to clear it and print it because I can see only little output. Have to expand it like this and things. So that's why I'm using Jupyter. I usually use Jupyter to teach any of the programming languages, basically in Python. So I hope that answered your question. If you have uh, any issue with that, please let me know, sure, or anybody. Please respond on the chat whether is this clear or not. You can parallelly take the notes. So every time I write something over here, please take a note or try it on your system by typing all these things, so that you guys also can understand and do it. So I'll give you a minute of time if you want to copy this part. Maybe if you want to write a note or your Python file, and you guys can try it whether what kind of type are you getting when you are giving a string and when you are giving any number to it. So you can just see what kind of type it is, string or integer. Please try it out from your end as well. So I'll give a minute or two and you can wait for. Please write it on the chat if you have any questions. Uh, I'm sharing this part of code if you want to try reassigning and seeing how exactly it will be after we assign some other data to the initial data of variable. I hope everything is clear. Uh, Please let me know on the chat if you have questions. Please write on chat. Okay, so we'll move forward and we'll try to do something different. So let's suppose there are three variables and x equal to 1, y equal to 1 and z equal to 1. So we want to put the same data into all the three variables. So you can print x, you can print y, you can print z. So everything is 1, 1, 1 over here, as you can see. And we don't want these things to be written like this. Maybe there are a few ways we can write it in a simpler manner. So as we are creating the same data to every variable, instead of doing in that way, so there is a little easier manner to do it, something like this. So we'll create new variables ABC as one. So right now A, B, C and all the three variable has the same data. So A has one, B has one, C has one. So it's something when you are trying to initialize any data with the same data for multiple variables, you can do it in this way so that you don't have to write 3 lines of code, just 1 line of code is enough. So the much more you learn on Python, right? You don't need to write multiple lines of code. So Python will give you flexibility to decrease the number of lines of your code at each and every point. We will discuss those things later on when we are going to uh, much more concepts on Python, so in depth. So that we'll discuss how can we write, how can we do some complex thing which is there on Java and single line in Python and things like that. So this is how we can assign some data to multiple variables and we can print it. So is that clear for you guys? Add it on the chat so that I make sure that you guys are on the same page and understanding it. Yes. So this how we declare and this how we basically add multiple same data to multiple variables. And in the same way, we create some information here. Let's suppose here you can see that we have created these source information. So we have these all information here, which we had written in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of code. So if we want to do it in a simpler manner, to do declare variables in an easy way in one line, we can do something like this. Instead of name, we'll do first name, and so I created three variables over here, which are first name, second name, and third name, and which I'm assigning some data to it like this. First, so something like this. So here we can see that we are trying to pass. So here we are trying to pass the same data to all the variables over here. So here we are trying to pass different data to different variables. So instead of writing in this 6 lines or 7 line, you can write everything in one line itself. So something like this. So first name and second name, third name will have first, second, and third by comma separation. So when I'm trying to print first name, we'll have first inside it. Second name will have second inside it. Third name will have third inside it. So it's basically assigning some data to it in a single line. So basically in a shorter manner, instead of writing some bigger or longer lines of code. So how they did here creating 6 lines, we can do it in single line itself, and we can print. We'll have one print statement in single line itself, so it would be much easier uh, to do. Or maybe so later on, if you see any some bunch of code, if you are seeing some 100 or 200 lines of code, you can do the same thing in Python, maybe some 15 to 20 lines also, if you are proficient enough to do it. And so 200 lines of Java code or something, we can do it in some 60, 70 lines of Python code also. So using some tricks like this, assigning some data to a variables like this. So if you want, please take a note of it, or if you have any questions, add it on chat. Please take a note of it. So if you guys don't have systems, laptops with you right now, you take a note of all these things. Try to implement these things when you get a time. So maybe when you go to your labs in your college, you can try these things by doing some different methods to assign some data to variables and how to manipulate it and things. Let me know on the chat if you have any questions, so that for every, it's also a little time taking for me to ask every time that if you have any questions or not. So please make sure that you need to ask what kind of questions or any doubts which you have, so that we can clear it out, so that we don't waste much time on this one. Simple things. Okay, so we'll move forward a little. So one of the basic program or basic thing which most of might not everybody ask it, but nowadays most of the companies or smaller companies, they ask you to write it, which is swapping uh, two variables information. So right now, name one is Uday and name two is Rakesh. So I want my variables to have, let's suppose name one should have Rakesh and name two should have Uday. So how can I do it? So this one basic thing everybody asks, basic programming which you get to see at multiple places, swapping two variables. So there are, I'll tell you standard way how do we do it on other programming languages as well, and I'll show you how can we do it on Python in an easier way. So on other languages, how can we do it? So we have, let's suppose, we'll take one more variable, maybe which is temporary variable which I'm creating, and initially I'm trying to put this Uday in temporary variable, so that on the next time I'll replace name one with name two. So in the end, I'll put name two with temp. So here we'll see what will happen. So initially, temp will be none, because we don't have any data inside temp. So and name one will be which is Uday. So after we are trying to assign it, after we are trying to put the information which is there in name one inside the temp, so then temp will have Uday. And and again we took name2, which is Rakesh, and we are trying to put name2 information in name1, so that name1 will have, so we'll get in. So name1 and name2. So initially name1 will have right, and name2 will have a right, and name3 will have Rakesh. So on the second line, we are trying to do put the name2 value inside name1. So before we have name2 as Rakesh and name1 as 1. So when we are trying to do it, so temporary will be same because we didn't do anything temp over here. So what we try to do is we are trying to put name2 variable inside name1. So name2 has Rakesh inside it. So then after this particular line of execution, name1 will have Rakesh. And in the same way, name2 will have Rakesh itself, because we didn't change anything. We didn't change any data of name2. We just changed the data of name1.
Dream complete చేసుకోవాలి.
So here on the second line, after execution of second line, you can see that we have Uday inside temporary, and name1 has Rakesh and name2 has Rakesh as well. So we'll try to, after the third line of execution, it will take the temporary data. So whatever the data inside the temp variable, it will put it in name2. So temp will have Uday, and name1 we still have Rakesh, because we didn't change anything over here on the temp1. We are changing something on temp2, where we are taking the data of temp, so name2, where we are taking the data of temp and putting in name2. So it will basically copy the data which is there on temp, which is Uday, and put it in temp2. So this will the exact thing which will happen over here when we are trying to swap to variable. So this is the standard format which we follow everywhere on most of the programmings which we do. So after this, so before this we have name1 as Uday and name2 as Rakesh, and we'll do this. Now name1 has Rakesh, because after this line of program we do, so we have name1 as Rakesh and name2 as Uday. So it's basically interchange the information. So whatever the information which is there on name2, it went to name1, and name1 information went to name2. So this is how we do it, swapping to variables using any third variable which we have created. So if you have any questions on this one, please add it on the chat. Is it mandatory to initialize a variable during this declaration so it can decide its data type? Yes, you have to declare some data to any variable, because if you're not passing any information, it will basically, it will create an instance for that particular variable, but you don't have any data, you cannot use it. So most of the time you need to create some data to it. I have written this code. Please, I'm getting error in snake.append. So it would be a little problematic to discuss this problem right now, because we are dealing with something called list, which is an data type which we can discuss later. So you are doing much more things, not just small ones. So you are using some other packages. I guess you are trying to do or draw some program, or draw some maybe circles, or maybe some pattern of code. So it would be much difficult for me to discuss right away over here. Yes, yeah. So that's what. So it will be very problematic to discuss all these kind of things right away, because there are lots of information which we didn't discuss at all. So you have created methods, you have imported packages, and you have also did some programming with list and things. So we'll discuss these things when we come to after completion of how can we do functions or how can we do list and things. So it would be much easier for everybody to understand it. So we'll have these kind of small problems every day, and we can discuss on how do we solve it and things. Yes. So we'll go line by line. So someone was asking, can we swap a string with a number? You can swap a string with number. Maybe we'll uh, do something similar. So I'm reassigning the values, which of name one will be there again. So instead of package, we'll put 20. Name 2 should be of 20, which we assigned it right now. So when you're trying to swap two variables of with the data of number, so here your name one will be Uday, and this will be 20. And here and this will be 20. And then you're trying to swap temp, she'll have this, and she'll have 20 over here as well. So when you are trying to run it and check what exactly is there in name one, we have 20 over here. And in the same way, we have Uday inside name two variable. So you can pass. So when you are trying to use third variable and swapping any two numbers, you can use you can pass any kind of data type to it. So you don't need to worry about what kind of data type you are passing inside it. So it's also easy for you guys to swap or do any of those kind of things using third variable basically. So most of your situation where you see at any other programming sites, right, or any programming companies or which you want to do, so they might ask you to do things without using third variable, but those things we can do using Python in much clear way. But I'll discuss that one. So someone asked. Yeah, so on Python we can do it in this way. So where if you have to swap two numbers without using any third variable, so name one, and we have name two, and if you have to swap those variables directly, so you can directly use this name two and name one. So this is something similar to thing which we did here. If you see here, so we were trying to assign uh, this particular first to first name, second to second name, third to third name. It is same thing which we are doing here as well. So we are trying to take the name two data and put it in name one, and we are trying to put the same name one data inside name two. So this is the shorter format to swap two numbers in Python. So you'll have that flexibility to do it in one line itself instead of writing this line, these three lines of code or creating one more variable over there. So this is how we do it. And one more thing, so can we do recursive type call like this? You can do it, but in the end you will be getting a class type of type. So because you're trying to find the type of a type, so type will always will have a class of type. So we'll see this. So name one will have Uday now. Have 20. So because we replaced it with. So before we have 20. So after this line of code, we will have swap two variables over here. So as you asked, so when you are trying to find the type of a type, you will get type of a class. So suppose name one, you are getting type because you are trying to find type of a type. Type is also a class which is already there, and you are trying to find the type of it. So you will get something like this. But when you are trying to find a type of a variable, it will basically return you what kind of information is there inside it. So right now name one has string, and in the same way name two has int integer inside. So it's little uh, useful when you're trying to find out what kind of information is there inside it. So after if you write some 10 to 20 lines of program, you don't know what kind of information is there inside it. So it's little easier for you to understand what kind of information by using type variable. And if you're trying to find you are asking about the line which you wrote yesterday, that a comma b equal to b comma a. Okay, so when you are trying to swap any two variables, it will basically store these. So every variable which you have right now will have a location where it will store all kind of information which you have written. So every information will be there at some particular point. When you are trying to assign some variable or assign or doing any assigning operators in Python or any other programming language, it will come from left to right. So here also it's coming from left, right to left. So here also it's coming from right to left, and it will basically take this information. So this basically syntax of Python, which you need to remember, that if you want to assign multiple data to multiple things, this is a syntax which you need to do. So even behind this, what will happen? It will take the whatever the name two variable which you have right now over here and name one variable, go to that particular location, so where these all this information are storing, and it will get that information of name 2. So initially name 2 will be something, I think Uday was there and 20 was there. So this particular Uday and so whatever 20 which is there here, both the things will add it to the variable at the same time. So the name 1 will have Uday right now and name 2 will have 20. So this was the thing which will happen behind. So assigning two variables with two data. So it will basically go to that particular location and find out what exactly the data is, and it will hold the data. It will basically get the information, and it will hold it, and it will try to put it in those two variables at the same time, so that you won't need to uh, write this many particular lines of code, which Python has flexibility to do it in single line itself to assign some data to it. I hope that answered your question. If anybody has any other questions, yes. So when you are trying to assign it from two other variables which you are having it, so it's gonna assign it in the same way that whatever the data which you are getting it from that particular location, it's gonna take it and put it over here on those two variables which you are trying to add it. If anybody has any questions, also please add it regarding how do we swap any numbers and things, because that's one small thing which is needed at most of your programming question or programming test which you take. Please hide it on the chart and let me know if swapping is clear till now or not. How do we swap to variables information on basic programming? How do we do it? Or how do we do it on Python? I am expecting much more responses from you guys. Please respond that whether if swapping is clear or not, so that we can go forward accordingly. I think swapping is clear. So we will move on to of doing or creating the variables. So we'll move on to data types. So how can we do uh, what kind of data types are there in total? So as we are discussing before that, we have data type which is we all pretty much know as integer. So number is basically called as an integer in programming languages. On Python, we'll define it as int. So here we have x equal to 1, and when I'm typing or when I'm trying to find the type of x, you're getting int. So basically the data which you are trying to put in x variable is integer. So this is one data type which we are trying to create. And in the same way, we can create one more variable. Maybe we'll rewrite the variable itself. The new variable which is, let's suppose, name. And we have name inside x. So if you are trying to find the type of x, so we have one more data type inside our uh, here. So we can use string as a data type when we are trying to pass any character information. Any data which we are putting in inside a parenthesis will act as a string. And if you want to do any of basically passing information or printing in information, so we can use string and pass it like this. So these are data type. I also added here. So integer. So integer will basically define like string. And the next one we'll discuss about float. So float basically basically means that what are the values which are in there in decimals. So y equal to 3.5, let's suppose. So right now, if you are trying to find out type of y, which is a float. So float base, which is nothing but the value, the number which we have, which is in a decimal format. So every decimal format which we are trying to take, and we'll get something in decimal format, and when you're trying to find the type of it, it will be in a float. So these three are the main things which we focus when we are trying to assign some uh, data to any variables. So we'll see how do we manipulate these variables. So how do we change into number, number to in float and things. When you are, we will create an easier manner. Maybe x equal to 1 and y equal to and z equal to 4.5. So we have all the three data right now. So if I'm trying to convert x basically is an integer. When I'm trying to convert x into string, so I can use str of whatever that variable is. I'm trying to convert str of x. So it basically converted that particular string which we have, basically number which we have, into a string. So when we are trying to do any validations or when you are trying to print it, so we usually convert it like that, and we use it based upon the situation which we need to do. So here right now I'm not uh, converting the data of it, converting the data type of that variable x. I'm just trying to print it. I'm not assigning to it. I'm not assigning to that x variable or any variable over here. So if you want to assign it, you are directly taking whatever the value which is there in string of x and assigning to the x itself. So if you see now, you will have a string inside it because we replace the x value with string of x. So that's how we can change the data type, basically change the value from data type from one to other. In the same way, we can do same for floats as well. So if we have float of 3.4 and we already have set, so z of 4.5, and we are trying to convert z to a string. And here you can see 4.5 over here, which is converted to a string. So everything which you see on ports is a string. So here you can see it's in a string right now. So we converted 4.5, which is a float value, to a string value. And we can assign the same thing to the z as well. So if you are trying to put z here, you will get a float value because we didn't assign that z value to z. We are just trying to print it. So right now I'm assigning that particular value. So right now if I print it, I'll get 4.5 over here. So this is how we convert other data to string. So when we are trying to convert data types from any few other data types to string. And in the same way, if you want to convert these things into an integer, so you have y is a string right now, and in the same way, if you are trying to put y, and if you are trying to convert y, which is string, into an integer, it won't convert because it will throw an error. You cannot convert a string into a variable, into an integer, because we don't have any number which is equal to name. So we don't see it anywhere. We have 0 to 9, and in those terms we don't have any number which is equal to name. So it will basically throw error that we are trying to find out. The integer value of name which is not there. So it's basically giving the value error over here, that there is no value which is already existed which you are trying to find out. And in the same way, if you want to, so z is 4.5, which is a float. If you want to convert float value into an integer, so int of z. So when you are trying to convert a float value into an integer, it will convert this to an integer, because whatever the value which we have right now, it's gonna remove the decimals and it will take the only the values which is there before that decimal point which we have on that variable. So and it will now act as a integer. In the same way, we cannot do convert any string to floats as well. So we'll get the same error that we are trying to convert name into a float, which is not possible at all. And but you can, so we have x as 2, and we can convert x is an integer to a float. It will give 2.0 because 2 which is equal to 2.0 as well. It will basically start from 0 at decimal. So it will convert integer into a float value by giving .0 to it. So right now the type of this will be, we didn't assign it so that it type of x will be integer itself, but when we are assigning it, we'll have a float value inside it. So here you can see right now the type of x is float. So this is how we have this basic integer, float and string. How do we convert integer to a float, float to integer, or string to other data types and things. Is it clear, guys? Converting data types of these three from here to there. So which all we can convert and which all we cannot. Please add it on the chart whether converting data types is clear or not.
Type X lab. Okay.
Okay, so we'll move forward and discuss a little more what are different type of data types are there. So now we'll discuss about list. So I created a variable called maybe x. I'll create a variable as x itself, which has data of 1. So when you are trying to denote any information in a list manner, you have to do it in this way. This basically square bracket. Open square bracket and put information inside and close the square bracket. So this basically will act as a list. So when you are trying to find the type of text, you can find it as a list. So this one very useful data type which you will be using in most of the programmings. You can do anything. Most of the programs which you get in any of your competitive exams, you will be using list only, so that you need to much focus on list when we do solve few of the problems on list. But there are much more options which you can do and play with list. So as we keep on getting few information on list, so it will be clear for you guys as well. So initially this is how we declare it. This is how we declare a list and put any information inside a list. So here we have 1 inside the list, and in the same way we can add multiple data as well into the list. So 1, and every data which you are trying to add, you need to comma separate it. 1, 2, 3. You don't need to give space here. So I'm just giving space so that it look easy or little convenient for everybody. So we can differentiate what all information are there. So it's maybe a best practice which you can follow to write your program. Give some space or something between any comma. So after comma, give some space. It's not just we do in programming language. We do the same thing on when you are writing anything on English as well. That after comma, we give some space so that it will look little good. So this how we declare x. Is having 1, 2, 3 as a data inside a list. So when you are trying to print x, you will get this 1, 2, 3. And when you are trying to find type of x, you will get it as a list. So which is a data type which we are trying to use it. I hope this is clear. How do we create a list and how do you find the type of a list? How do we put information inside a list? We don't put only numbers here. We can also put isn't it? And here we have 1, 2, and hello. So you can pass any information inside this. So we have these information, and if you want to use this data, we can use it in this way. So this how basic, how do we declare some variable or declare some data inside a list. So hope this is clear. If you have any questions, add it on chat on list. How do we declare a list, or how do we add some data to it, add multiple data to it? Add it on the chart so that even I also understand that you guys are on the same page and you are getting it, how a list works. This is how you be on your classes, being silent, not responding to much of your professors. So the more interactive you be, right? So I see today at most of the places, every time there's only possible response, and there are a few other people as well. We have 81 people who are there inside the class. So I want all you guys also to be interactive, and I want you guys to ask more questions. Don't go beyond, don't go somewhere little further and get problems from there and ask me something like someone asks to do the snake program. It's very difficult for you guys to understand right away. Even if I try to explain it, you won't get it. So there's a vector programming which is over there. Here there we need to find the path of one snake. So when you snake is going from one position to another position, we need to find and we need to move. So it's very complex. You guys won't understand right away even if I try to explain. There are multiple concepts inside it. Don't go further like that. We'll go step by step. I'll explain each and every part slowly. After some time, when we have, so maybe at the end of every class, we'll try to solve some one or two problems, smaller ones, and then later we'll go to such kind of problems. You won't get any program to build a snake game or things like that in your competitive any of your exams. You don't need to focus on those kind of things. You don't need to import any libraries also. So we'll discuss how do we import any libraries, how do you use any libraries. So right now, most of your competitive exams, you don't need to import any libraries. They won't give much complex ones because you need to know basics of Python itself. You don't need to focus on how to create any other Python uh, games or any other uh, things which are little complex over there. So we'll go step by step and make sure everybody understand how do we declare variables on a list. So now we'll see how do we access those variables. I hope everything is clear. You can store lots of information in a list. So every data which you are trying to put inside a list, you will be declaring some limitation to it, but there is a limit point where you can how much data you can store inside a list. So that's uh, the limit of a list would be somewhere around 10 power of exponential forms. You can have lots of information inside a list. So, but if you want to define that how many uh, variables you can, how many data you can build, you can define in that way. So even most of your programming questions, they'll give some restriction to how much data you can use it on inside a list.
డాగి కాయిన్లు అయితే ఒక 100 అనుకుంటారు డాగి కాయిన్లు. 100 డాగి కాయిన్లు ఉన్నాయి. నెక్స్ట్ ఆ బిట్ కాయిన్స్.
So this is the list we have. So we'll try to access list. So every not just only on Python, every other programming languages, we have a term called index. So indexes will start from 0, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So instead of denoting it as 1, 2, 3, so your indexes will start from 0, 1, 2, 3. So every index, so right now we are dealing with list the same way on our other languages. When you are doing it on arrays or something, it will also start from 0th index. Even here in list also will start from 0th index. So when you're trying to print some data which is there inside a list, we can start from 0th index, and this how you access some uh, list data. So when you are giving some x of 0, so 0 basically means this, the data which you are trying to put. 0 of so this is 0th index, this first index, this second index. So when you are trying to find out what is there in 0th index, you can give something like this, x of 0, which is in the square bracket. When you're trying to print it, you will get the 0th index value, which is 1. In the same way, if you want to print x of 1 is 2. Same way, if you want to print third data of 3, sorry, x of 2, so x of 2 is hello. So when you are trying to find out the data which is not there inside a list, so when you are trying to find data of 3, so we don't have any 3 index at all here, but we are trying to find out if 3 is there. So it will throw an error, that index error, index out of range. So the range which is having over here is 0, 1, 2. It can go to the second index. We don't have any information which is beyond second. So when you're trying to find out, it will throw an error that we don't have any data which you're trying to do. So you have to deal things like this. So when you are trying to find any access any data, you need to make sure that you are trying to find out the data which is there in particular location. So this is how you access data of a list using indexes from 0, 1, and 2. So 0 it will be the first data, and first index will be second data, and second index will be third data. So this is how we do it. So let me know if you have any questions on how do we access data. Please let me know in the chat if you have any questions. How do we access data inside a list? I guess there are no questions. How do we access data of a list? If you have any, please add it on the chat so that we can discuss parallelly about things. How do we do it? So right now we have a list that which has x equal to 1, 2, and hello. And how do we add a new data? Or if you want to add some data to the list, so how do we add it? So we have a method which we can do is append. So I'm trying to append data to x. X is a variable which is a list. I'm trying to append some data to x, maybe new one. So if I'm trying to find out x, now it will be 1, 2, hello, and new one. So this is how we append any new data. How do we add any new data which we want to add it at some point? This is how we append it. So append is one of the method which we commonly use on list when we are trying to add any information. I hope this is clear. How do we add any information, add any new data to a Python list? Okay. So right now we are adding. So every data which you are trying to add, it is going to at the end of it. But let's suppose if you want to add some data at some particular index, I want to add number 3 in between 2 and hello. So you can use a method called insert. Insert will take two parameters. One is the index, at which index you wanted to put. So I wanted to put at 0, 1, and here the index would be 2. So I want to put at second index, and what's the value which I wanted to put. So I want to put value 3 to that particular place, index value. So X will be 1, 2, 3, hello, and new one. So this is how we add any data in between if you wanted to add. So if you want to add any data at the last position, basically appending some value to it, adding some more information to the existing one. We'll use append when we are trying to add any of the information to the list. So these two also one useful methods which we use to get any information or add any information into any of a list. So in the same way, if you are trying to add, and so let's suppose we don't have any value of 10th index here. We just have only 0, 1, 2, and we added one more right now. 0, 1, 2, 3. We have only 3 indexes. So, but we are trying to add inside to a 10th index of value 3. You're not getting anything, but the response you'll be getting here like this because you are trying to add some variable which is way beyond the limitation of the list because you don't have any data from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here you have till 4 indexes, and if you are trying to put any data uh, uh, within 4, or maybe you can add 5 as well. So any data which you are trying to add below 5, it will take it if you want to append any at any place. But if you are trying to append some data at some other indexes which is not there in the limitation, which is based not there in the length of any list, it won't throw an error. It will basically append at the last of it. It will basically act as an append method which we have. This is how we do append or insert any information. I hope that is clear on how do we add any information to a list, maybe at end or maybe at the in between of an list. Please take a note of it if you want to take it so that we can move forward and discuss a little more on list as well. So if you want to print multiple data of 0, same way how we did yesterday. So now x of 0 will act as a variable. Same like how we did name and things. We'll get 1, 2, 3 right now. Same like comma separator which you are trying to print. And if you want to add it, you can add using this operator as well, but you need to make sure that all the 3 data which you are trying to print are on one data type. So here 1, 2 and hello, these two are in one data type and this is another data type. So when you're trying to add it, it will throw errors like that. So that means we are trying to find out, I think 2 we have as 3. So when you are trying to add 3, which is a string, it will throw an error that we are trying to add integer and string. So if you are trying to add 1, 2 and 3, so basically these 3 are numbers. So when you are trying to add 1, 2 and 3, it will add those values 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is 6. So this is what will happen when you are trying to add on one data type. So integers will add like this, but string will append information. So hello 1, hello will be, and new 1 will be. So the entire string when you are trying to add it will be hello new 1 without space. So that's how we print different information on it. If you want to add any information, that's how we do it. Set object is not. So where do you have created set? I think you have created a set or something. Can you share me your declaration, that X variable declaration as well? So you are trying to use curly braces. You shouldn't use curly braces. Those are curly braces. You need to use square like this. List use square brackets. So there is one more other data type which will use curly braces. So you need to use square only. You are using flower brackets basically. Curly braces are flower brackets. So you are trying to use those. Just replace X with this. Yeah, I hope you got it, right? Yeah. So you need to use square brackets for list. We have one more data type called set where we use curly braces. So we'll get to that when we go to that particular part. So right now you use square brackets for adding any information or extracting based on indexes. So right now we are adding some information. So we are also getting some information based on index, that x of 2. X of 2 will basically give me what will be there in X. So this is what is there in X, and we are trying to find out what is there inside an X using indexes. It will give 3. So I want to find out where exactly this particular data is. So I want to find out where exactly hello is. So if you want to find the position of some variable, some data inside a list, we have every list. Basically, list has multiple methods which we can use, that to access any information or to add any information or to modify. Basically, we have multiple methods. In the same way, for when you are trying to uh, find the index, so basically the method which you are trying to find, which you are trying to check is index. So when you are trying to find the index of any variable, we have a method called index. So we'll put x dot index of name. So it will basically find the index of name. whether if index is present, this name is present inside the list or not. So we'll check with hello first. So we are trying to find out index of hello, which is 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So 3 is the data which X has right now. So this is fine. When we are trying to find any index which is there. The same way when we are trying to find any data which is not there. So if HELL, so this, we don't have any hell. So we have hello, but we don't have any hell. So when we are trying to find this, we'll get error that we don't have that kind of variable, that kind of data which you are trying to find out inside the list. So you this might help at some times that when you're trying to write any program and it's breaking at some corner cases. So this will help you to understand that there is some issue which you did and it's going beyond typing, finding something which is not there in the list. So this is how you find it when you're having any data inside a list and you want to find the index of it. And so right now this is the X data, and I will add one more data to it. So here we can see right now we have three at twice. So we have 3 at second index and fourth index as well, fifth index basically. So we have 3 at second index and fifth index. So when you are trying to find second index, we have 3, and fifth index we have 3, but we have 2 indexes right now. So when you are trying to find index of 3, so it will basically check where all 3 is available and it will return. But when you're having multiple data which we are trying to find, it will return only the first data, which as soon as we find it, we'll stop searching for it. So it will go to first location, it will search for 3, it's not there, it will go to second and it will go to third. So we found data 3 which we are trying to find at second index, it will return 2. It won't search for all the information which is there here. So when you are trying to find these kind of things, we have to iterate it in the entire loop, entire list we have. So we'll get to that part. How do we iterate it and how do we access all those information which is there inside? For right now, remember that we use index method basically to find the index of any data which we are trying to find it. Yeah, I hope that's helpful. So please let me know if you have any questions on this one. How do we access it or how do we find the index of any data? Okay, is it creating confusion for you guys to see how exactly this program is working? I mean, if you feel difficult that I'm using Jupyter, so that I can start from on Python file itself. But you can also let me know what is where you are finding difficult. No, so I can use Notepad, but it's not convenient to use it. So it doesn't matter what you are using, whether you are using Notepad or you are using VS Code or you are doing programming on Jupyter. All are same. Everything is a program and we are executing it. So try to install any of IDEs, maybe any of Notepad++ or maybe VS Code or something. It will be easier for you to understand. So if you feel Jupyter is not comfortable, maybe we'll try to do it from VS Code. I can do it from Notepad also. So if you see my Notepad, if I'm trying to open some, so it's the same thing. It won't look good when I'm trying to do any program. And so let's suppose I wrote some program here, and if I want to run this, I have to open command prompt. Every time I do it, I have to go to desktop and have to run There are lots of tasks which I'm doing when I'm writing program and executing it. So that's the reason why I prefer doing it on VS Code, where we have terminals below itself. So I'll click off terminal button and go, we have terminal to do it. So it doesn't matter where you're doing it. So you can also do it on Notepad, but it's little difficult for me to do it and show it, run it and explain everything parallelly. So the program which I write on Notepad, if it's taking some 10 minutes, I can do the same thing on VS Code in 6-7 minutes. So I'm basically saving some time to do it. I don't need to go here again. Going below, I go to any of the command prompt and run. It's basically taking. It will take some time. Instead of wasting time on these kind of things, I'll directly go to do and program on any of these. Yeah, I'll do it in VS Code if it's required. From tomorrow onwards, I'll explain on VS Code. But the reason why I choose Notepad is Jupyter is that I can directly write it and print it then and there. So it would be easier for me, and it won't take much time also to directly show you guys how exactly the output is. So that's why I chose Jupyter to do. But basically, we'll do it. VS Code initially, maybe later on when we are getting into little more things, so that you will understand that it doesn't matter whether you are doing it from Jupyter or VS Code. At that point, I'll switch to Jupyter again, so it would be convenient for you guys as well. But there is no restriction that you have to use Notepad or VS Code. If people who don't have VS Code, maybe try installing VS Code as well. It's little easier. VS Code is not the only thing which we use as an idea to do. We have PyCharm and many others. We have WebStorm. You can use any of the IDs where everything will have a terminal over here. So if you have VS Code installed on your system, it's also little easy for us to do it little quicker. So even if you go to any of your company, or if you join any company later on, you won't code on Notepad at all. You will be coding maybe on VS Code or any of popular IDEs, which is little comfortable because nobody uses Notepad or Notepad++ when you go into any of your corporate sector or any of your professional career. Okay, for initially we'll try to use it on VS Code, and it will be much easier for us also to understand maybe that there is no difference between the ID which I'm using. So I'll use VS Code from tomorrow onwards instead of doing it on Jupyter. But if you guys want to install VS Code, please do install VS Code. It's little easier also to do. You don't need to write some code here and go to command prompt and do and waste your time on while you're copying it from the thing which I'm trying to tell. So if you want to save time, maybe try following it with VS Code. So yeah, so I'll follow VS Code from tomorrow onwards. So let's just continue on this part. So right now we have some data inside a list. Okay. So we need to find how many data are there inside a list. So if you want to find uh, basically count of any data, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when we are trying to find the length of x, we'll get 6. So we have 6 information inside it. So don't confuse between indexing and length. So length will be in basic English terms that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 data are there inside. But indexes will start from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's the standard format every data type we use on every other language as well. So len of x will give 6 because we have 6 data over here. That's how you find length of any variable which you are trying to find. And I'm adding some more data. 456. So this is the new list which I have, and when I'm trying to find length of it, it is 7 right now. I added one data to it using an append method. She'll add it to the end of it. That's how we find the length of any list basically. Right. How many data are there inside? So we have two questions here. We'll go first. How, sir, exactly for what are we using index? If you want to find, so let's suppose at some point when you're writing any program, I need to find at what index hello is there. So I need to find, so right now you are seeing it with your eyes that hello is at 0, 1, 2, 3. This is the third index. So hello is at third index. But programmatically, you need to know that where is my index of this hello. So let's suppose the ind is a variable which I created. So x has this one, and ind, I need to have information where exactly this hello is there. So for that, I'll use ind and x dot index of hello. So ind will have 3 because hello is there at third index. So right now you understand that why do we use it indexes, how do we use things, and later on you will get a chance that why exactly we use index. There can be situation where you need to find whether these data is there or not, or where exactly that particular data is there inside the list. So you are trying to find out this. So maybe after we get on to solve few of any programming questions, right? So then you will understand that why exactly we are using index. So right now, just keep a note that to find any index of any data, we'll use index method to find where exactly the data is. I hope that answered your question, Anil. Please let me know if you uh, got what I was trying to say, that why do we use indexes. Okay, so what's the difference between append and insert? So every time you use append, it will try to add it at the end of it. So right now we have I'm trying to add something called 3000. So when I'm trying to use append x dot append 3000, you go to at the end. So here I added twice, so that's why it came. So if I'm adding 4000, so here you can see that I added 4000, which is going at the end. So every time you use any append method, it will add the data at the end of the list. So end of the list basically is 4000. So it will show those information at the end, and it will add. Basically append means appending and adding at the end. So basically as a tail part of in a list. But using insert, you can insert at some particular location. I don't want 4000 to be going at the end. I want 4000 to be maybe in between hello and new one. So in those situations we use insert. So insert will take so here append will take one parameter, which is data directly, which will append at the last. But append will take two parameters. I want to add 5000, and I need to give also index. What index, or basically at which particular index I have to add. So I have to add in between hello and new one. So in that case, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to add at fourth index. So this will take two parameters. One is insert at which index we need to give, at which index we need to add information, and what information we need to add. So I need to add 5000 at fourth index. So here it added 5000 in between hello and new one. So it will be useful at when we are trying to add any information in between, instead of just directly adding it at the end of it. So we use insert at few situations like that. I hope that answered your question. One second. So you are trying to find. You are trying to insert, and you are trying to find index of x equal to 3. Uh, sorry, value equal to 3, and you are trying to find the index. So in this situation, your x dot index. So we'll split this question instead of doing it in a bunch. So we'll try to find out what will be data of x index of 3. So we are trying to find out what at what position the 3 is. So the index will be 0, 1, 2. So the value which this will gonna return is 2. And you are trying to append temp data over here. So this will basically means that you are trying nothing but you are doing this. You are trying to insert at second position a temp. So it will basically add temp at second position 1, 2, 3. So you have that flexibility to do all these things in an easy way. So I want to get the index of 3 and I want to insert everything at once. So as you gave the example that we can do everything in one line, that finding the index and in the same way appending it to it. So that's how we'll be adding and finding and inserting at some particular location. I hope that answered your question, Zay. So we just have 7 more minutes. So instead of continuing on list and things, so we'll have maybe a Q&A session. So if anybody have any doubts in the entire class which you had today, maybe discussion on data types or swapping variables or list, or how do we add it and things like that, please let me know on the chat. We'll discuss now. Instead of going beyond 9 o'clock every day, we'll have 10 minutes of time at the end of every call. We'll discuss if you have any doubts or if you want to discuss anything. Please add it on the chart that if you have any questions so that we can discuss on the class things which we discussed today. Please let me know on the chat. Okay, so right now you got these all the information which you have inside the list. So we have lots of data inside a list, and you need to know how many are there. So we don't know right now. You can count it. I'm counting it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But in a programmatical view, I need to find out how much data is there inside a list. So for that, we use a method called len. So length of x will basically give 12. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12 data inside it. It's not just len, we use it for only list. You can also use len for maybe y is one more variable which we created, and you can use len for y. It will be 4 because the length of the string, which is name, which is 4 characters, it will return length of that particular string. So len will help us to understand how many are there. But when you are trying to find out number, so there is no length for a number because it's not a string which will iterate from it. So basically a number will act as a number. There is no parameter which will find how many are there. So based on 1, 2, 3, you will be knowing that you have 3 characters over there, 3 numerical digits over there. So you can find length for list and strings. There are much more. We'll discuss that later on. But right now, you can find length of any string or length of any dish using length method. I hope that answered your question, Anil. Do you have any confusion on that? Okay. Have you guys reached the PPT slides which I created on the first class? I think I have shared with the team. Did you receive those slides, and the class one Python file also I have shared with them? Okay, so I'll ask them to share it with you guys, the PPT slides which I showed you on first class and the Python file which we created on second class yesterday basically. So I'll also try to add all the information which we did today into one Python file and maybe uh, send or maybe share with you guys. Instead of doing or sharing Python files every day, we'll do it week-wise. So every week I'll send one Python file. So all the information which we discussed in the week, it'll be there in that Python file. So, but you will get the PPTs. I will talk with them. You will get the PPTs, that things which we discussed on first day. And please let me know if you have any questions that we can discuss regarding today's entire class. Please write on chat if you have any questions. Okay, so we'll add it over here. So today we discussed adding same data to different variables. Into variables data. And then we went into data types. We convert one data type to other, and we discuss about list. The list we the index, we have search for length. So these are all the things which we discussed today. That how do we add multiple data to same data to different variables, different data to different variables. So you can use the len method which we have. You can use the same len method to find the length of a string. So here we have y, which is name. If you want to find y 4 NAME, which is of 4 size. So this is how we find the length of any variable, string basically. I hope that's answered your question. If you have any questions more, please add it on the chat. I think we were over 2 minutes right now, so I'll just give 1 more minute. If you have any questions, please ask me right now so that I can end this session. I think that's all. Nobody has questions, I guess. So let's meet tomorrow. So before that, if you have to go through any concepts or list and swapping variables and things, you can go through it. So let's meet tomorrow and discuss more on other data types and little more information on list as well, where I didn't discuss few more methods on list, which you need to keep a note of. So have a nice day. Let's meet tomorrow. Bye everyone.